right? A mammoth has never seen a person. You just walk up and kill it.
Right.
And you do that for a couple months in some valley, and then everything gets like, oh shit, it's one of them things, and runs away. Well, jump to the next valley.
Yeah.
and find more of the ones that don't, find more of the ones that have never seen you.
Yeah.
Like I've had occasion before to see like a elk that would have had no way to encounter a dog, and their attitude is kind of like, the hell is that? Right? You know what I mean? They're like curious about it. They're kind of looking at it. So you can imagine like these early peoples could probably just walk up on a lot of shit and just kill it.
Probably, right?
Yeah. It's like, what's this thing
little
gonna
tiny
hurt?
thing.
Yeah, what's this thing gonna do?
Fuck out of here.
And all of a sudden, like, some bitch stabbed me. So that was an idea that pushed like how fast people spread around. And then they weren't fighting each other because they were all this. There's no competition for resource. They're not fighting each other, and they're enjoying like very high reproductive rates because they're drowning in food and there's no conflict.
I wonder what the wildlife populations were like back then too, before humans. Like when humans did encounter, when they first encountered North American wildlife, I wonder what the populations were.
Staggering.
Must have been crazy.
Just staggering. Wow. We'll never know.
We'll never know. No. But if you had a time machine, that's your spot.
Well, they're getting closer to knowing now, because now they can do crazy shit like they can go into pond sediments. Do you know what I mean? Like stuff's shedding. You're shedding cells all the time, right? At some point, you'll go down 10 feet into some pond and pull a little bit of sediment out and lay that sediment out and do some analysis and be like, there's skin cells from 6 mammoths, a short-faced bear, right?
Right.
Whatever. It's getting crazy. It's funny, like talking about Indiana Jones, like that style, like the archaeology is becoming increasingly archaeology is becoming like the realm of the scientist, like the lab scientist, you know what I mean? Not the field work. Like
right.
It's so much more, it's such a richer field of inquiry now to analyze stuff we already have than it is to go find new stuff. You follow me?
Yeah.
And when you go on an archaeological dig, they just dig a fraction. There's a knowledge now. that tomorrow we're going to know a bunch of shit we don't know. So if we got 100 squares, we'll just dig one now. And the impulse used to be just to come in and like destroy the whole site, right? And wash everything away with hoses and just look for big bones and big stone points. And you'd come away with thinking that they used big stone points to kill big bones because you just washed into the ditch all of that micro evidence, all of those small bones, all of the plant pollen. You just washed everything away because you kind of knew what you were looking for.
Right.
So we probably make the same mistake now. So when you go to a dig, they just go like, we'll just check this little square and then leave, this is protocol now, knowing that in 10 years, 100 years, whatever, someone's going to have a way better way. They'll stick some little stick down there and they'll tell them everything they need to know,
Did I tell you about my friend John Reeves? Did I ever tell you about the boneyard in Alaska?
Oh, yeah. No, you had him on the show. Oh, yeah.
He comes on the show every year. He was supposed to be the last guest this year, but he got pneumonia. So he's coming on in February.
Oh, that shit's fascinating, man.
That place is crazy. It's only 6 acres.
Is that right?
Yeah. 6 acres, thousands and thousands of bones.
Yeah.
And what he thinks is it's like some sort of a natural disaster took place and probably asteroid impact. There's a thick layer of carbon.
Yeah.
Thick layer of carbon. And in the permafrost is all these bodies. And they think that it's probably just washed all these bodies into a ditch. And that's why there's so many of them there.
It's got the perfect spot.
Yeah, perfect spot. They found animals that weren't even supposed to be in Alaska there.
Yeah, it's like if you had La Brea tar pits to yourself, man.
Yes, exactly. But it's all his property, so no one can go there. So they've found them in the East River now because it turns out that which museum was it, Jamie?
Oh yeah, no,
yeah. They dumped some of the bones into the East River. So these people have actually gone down there and found them in the East River now. They found a bunch of bison bones and all kinds of shit in the East River, which is really crazy.
No, it is.
Because exactly where they said that they dumped these things off, they found them now. It's really wild. And so
that's a fact.
You should go to visit this guy's property.
I would like to do that.
That would be a great episode for your show because this whole thing is crazy.
Yeah.
And they may or may not have found human remains there.
Oh,
They can't talk about.
I imagine not. That shit gets pretty complicated in a hurry, man.
Archaeological. Yeah, it gets a little. Yeah.
We did one on the the Lost Roanoke colony, and there's archaeologists working on what happened at the Lost Roanoke colony. And the minute you bring up like human remain conversations, people, it's just like
shut the fuck up.
Yeah, because
things get real weird,
enormously complicated.
Yeah,
I recently met a guy that does. He's Puebloan, so he's from one of the pueblos in New Mexico. And his whole focus is on, he does repatriation for his pueblo. Like, for people not familiar with the pueblo, it'd be like basically, it's akin to a tribe, right? He works on repatriation for his tribe, mostly focuses on remains. Getting back the remains of his ancestors from all these museums and stuff.
Wow.
They want them back.
Yeah.
And I had said to him in this conversation, I'd said, hey, why can't there be like a deal to be struck where you just say to the museum, like, okay, you keep 1 gram of that bone for your work. Keep a gram of the bone and give the rest back to us. And he said that would never be acceptable to us. Be like the same way if someone went and dug your,
right.
Someone dug your grandpa's bones out of a graveyard. And later you're like, hey,
let me borrow his foot.
Give me my grandpa back. I'm like, no, we're keeping it. What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
We're going to do studies on them.
God, it's so complicated.
So I think that it would be finding that. And then what complicates a lot of that human remains stuff too, especially with stuff that he's talking about, that stuff he has is as old as it did, is there's a little bit of a question, like the groups that are there now, peoples that are there now, were they the peoples that were there before?
Right.
Because people move all the time, right? You just look at like how the Comanche moved, look how the Sioux were in the upper Midwest and in areas of Minnesota and wound up, coming westward, and all this movement. So when you have bones, there's always a question of, well, who, typically it goes like this. It's like, who was currently on the land? But when you're talking about bones that are 10, 11, 12,000 years old, there's like a little bit of in my mind, there's a little bit of a question of like, well, who do you, how do you know that person's direct descendants aren't in New Mexico?
Right.
Think about how much time passed.
Yeah.
Like, are you giving them, like, are you giving them to the wrong people?
Right. That's a very good point.
Yeah. Cause people moved all over the damn place.
God, it's fascinating.
But with
stuff.
the Pueblos, it is not that. Like with the Pueblos, it is like people that have had occupation on these places for hundreds of years, and people just came in and hauled their ancestors out.
Wow.
To stick them in museums. I was at a museum with my kids over Christmas break. I was at a museum in Chicago, and we go into this exhibit, and all the displays are papered, so you can't see. And there was a sign that just said, like, we're in a repatriation issue. So they blocked it all.
Wow.
Whatever, I don't even know what was behind the paper. Whatever the display was, they're in a custody battle over their display and